Thank
Uh,
you.
we now move on to the second speaker of the day, Dr. Ashwini Bhadri. He is assistant professor at Cluster Innovation Center at University of Delhi, and we have cut short his many achievements in his field of work, which is mainly he was trained in botany for his bachelor's and master's, and he moved on to work in the field of microbiology and tuberculosis in particular at Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology. He joined as assistant professor, and he's teaching courses like bioinformatics. But in his heart, he is a wildlife enthusiast, and over the past many years, he has visited many forest reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, and his main interest is towards birding and bird photography. And you will hear, his because of his keen interest in fine arts and music and writing, you will regularly come across his articles, his poems in newspapers, in wildlife magazines. So, without me talking more and more about it, I would rather share the screen with Dr. Ashwini and hear his journey and his world of bird photography. So we welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Richa. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. So it was an inspiring talk by Mehraji, and I'm glad that my slide will be kind of a continuation of his presentation. Before I start, just a few things to add. First of all, I'll try to be bilingual, and I'm horrible at both, so please forgive me. And secondly, I was told that I can have a kind of a session which is kind of practical oriented. So we will have a session where the first part will be interactive. So all of you, please feel free to interact. And the third part is many of you are probably using your mobile phones. So I'll suggest that because there are many photographs and slides, so kindly switch to desktop or laptop if possible. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. But yes, sir. Now it's on slide show mode.
On slide, okay. So just to continue with Surendraji's presentation, you see this is a similar kind of photograph on the left side. It's in another one of the national parks where thousands of people go, and everyone here is watching and waiting for the tiger. You know, it's all about tiger, right, for us. And I was also there. I was part of a bird watching group, and we were having a kind of a bird count at Dudhwa. And I was spotting this tree in the right side. Can any one of you guess something interesting in this tree or in the background somewhere? Anyone? Because we will be having this.
There is a nest. There is one nest kind of thing on the tree.
Nest. Okay, no, it's not a nest. It's kind of a branch which is kind of losing out.
Okay.
And this is a background, another tree. Actually, sorry.
Okay.
So let me just go into the next slide, and we will identify what is there. See, sorry, next slide is not going. I have to go like this. Here there were 3 moths. Now, if you see the tree now, you will see where these 3 moths were, and they were perfectly camouflaged. You can see there are 3 different kind of moths. But unfortunately, this is not the point about the moths. So we will talk about birds soon. But my point to show you this slide is that none of this, hundred of, tourists or natural enthusiasts, whatever you call them, none of them were interested. And all of them went so-called empty-handed because unko tiger nahi dikha. And that is the common thing I often hear from many people. That यार कुछ नहीं दिखा, कॉर्बेट गए कुछ नहीं दिखा, राजा जी गए कुछ नहीं दिखा, बंदीपुर गए कुछ नहीं दिखा, पेरियार तक भी गए थे कुछ नहीं दिखा. Why कुछ नहीं दिखा? Because we are not trying to see, and even when we see tiger, we miss everything else. So next day we spotted the tiger because we were searching for birds, so that's why we could see the tiger. But in this second part where some of you were asking that what you can take, I understand some of you are from different backgrounds, from zoology, from wildlife management group, from maths, physics. So there is a space for everyone. I don't subscribe to the fact that, okay, there are so many tourists or so many people now who are interested in wildlife. It's good because some of them will go for, just like someone was saying that I want to stop wildlife trade. So some of them will go for anti-poaching activities. Some of you will go for as a conservation forester. Some of you will directly work as a forester. Some of you will be a birder or blogger or even preacher. Some of you will be just a nature lover and share your love for nature. So it's good. And some of you will probably pick up research, be an ornithologist or a herpetologist for that matter. So there is space for everyone. Slowly you choose which field is good for you. So we'll start with our first session, and for this I'll request all of you can unmute yourself, and then you can spot the birds and let me know, so that it will be kind of interactive. The next two sessions are identification of the birds and kind of different habitats where you can find birds. So let's start the camouflage cam. This is a very easy one. All of you can probably see the bird where it is. You can see the cursor, it's directly in the middle. It's a teeter or grey francolin. You can see how closely the color of the body of the bird matches with this of the stones. Okay, this is easy one to start with. Now I will just wait for you to answer. In this one, anyone?
So in the center.
In the center?
Center right.
No,
Center right.
side.
Yes. So now you can see this is a bird called wall creeper. So well, this is also stone, hilly area, but different kind of color, and see how well the bird matches itself. This is a beautiful bird called wall creeper. Next here.
It's there जो एक बहुत प्लेन सी ब्रांच दिख रही है रगड ब्रांच के वहाँ कॉर्नर नहीं
left, right, center.
What's the
right?
Right.
Toward the right side. So yes, you're kind of right. Here there is this bird. Kind of a tail, and this is a bird-tailed tree keeper. You can see the tail is bird, and now if you can see here, you can see if you can see my cursor, you can see the bird tail. See how well camouflaged the bird is. So let's go a little bit tougher one. When I spotted this, I was also very much ecstatic. It's just in front of you, but so well camouflaged. So that's why spotting and identification becomes very
In between, it's in the center, just at the center.
It's almost matched with the rock color. It's a Peekel's thrush. See, even in this photograph where we have taken it closely, even with this close approach, it's also matching. Okay, good. So let's move to some tougher slides. Anyone? Because you will find yourself in this kind of a situation whenever you go to any national park or sanctuaries or biosphere reserve. By the way, someone is asking about biosphere reserve and national park and sanctuaries. While you spot that, I will try to answer that some of this question. Biosphere reserve is specific for certain animals or flora or fauna where we also try to understand their biology, go for their bird pool. Anyone here? किसी को नहीं मिला तब तक? Okay.
So on the back side, there is
No,
a branch.
not on the back side. See in the center left here, it's a small bird.
Yes, sir.
Yes, now you can see it. It's a jungle nightjar. See, exactly matching with the tree color. Now if you can go back here, you can see the little slight difference in color. So you have to spot like this, slight difference in color, certain movement, then obviously calls and other habitat. Next, this one. So in national park, there are proper boundaries, and in the core areas and certain areas there tourism is allowed, certain areas and in certain times tourism is not allowed. While in the wildlife sanctuaries, the boundary is kind of overlapping and a little bit more relaxation with tourism areas and tourism is given. And also wildlife sanctuaries at times are designated with certain specific birds or animals or even flora also. So this is like a broad way differentiation. Anyone? Now see, we were talking about forest. This is a kind of a urban old landscape, some old architecture. Here also birds are there. It's just again exactly at the center. If you can see, here there's a small bird. It's a beautiful singing bird called brown rockchat. You will find it in the western central India side. Okay, now if you go back again, see how well it is kind of camouflaged. Why I am showing this slides instead of just telling you about different birds is, this is how you should learn. We generally, even in the classical zoology classes also, we talk about different birds, their classifications, and we don't get any interest. So I have not gone into that kind of an orientation where I'll talk about different birds. We'll talk about different birds, but the idea is to give you an approach that how you can spot birds, then how you can identify birds, and you can go to different places to see birds, and then you choose whether you want to be a photographer or a bird watcher or an ornithologist for that matter. Anyone? So it's really getting tough. Not more than 1 or 2 slides after this, but these are really, see, you can see this is a forest canopy. This is not any treetop. So you have to look whether the birds are in solitary or in pairs, whether they are sitting on the top, or certain birds prefer the middle trees, certain birds are in the bushes. Anyone? No one is even trying.
There's a bright spot on right side of the tree. Is
Right
that the
side of the
bird?
tree? No, not right side. I'll give a hint. Left side. See, again you can see this small greenish leaf. Just beside that there is this thrush. It's a beautiful thrush called scaly thrush. Now if I go back again, you will see this bird here. Can you see it now? Can you see my cursor?
Yes, sir.
So, see how, again, it's not only about camouflage, it's about their habitat. We have to spot them. Okay, the last one. This is almost an impossible one, and whoever answered this, they will get a Cadbury from my side. Because,
Sir,
this
it's
is
in the center. Yes. Sir.
center here. In the this is no,
Yes.
this is a no, this is a leaf. It's also a look. It just looks like a dry leaf or dry leaves actually, and even if you are almost standing in front of it, 90% of the time you will miss it. This is a bird called frogmouth, a master camouflage, just like the nightjars. And there are 2 frogmouths in India. One Hodgson's frogmouth, which you will find in the northeast region, and one Sri Lanka
Sir,
frogmouth.
in the upper left corner.
Upper left, this side,
Yes.
What's
No, sir.
down,
Slightly right.
towards the right?
slightly right, here,
A
upper.
Yeah,
bit up,
this
just
is
above.
this sir,
Just
this.
No, not
Sir,
this,
this
not
one.
this, not this. See, so it's so difficult. Let me go back and then to try to find the bird again. So these are the birds. It's a pair of Sri Lankan frogmouth. You can see a frog-like mouth here. Now let me go back again. Find it. Now you have seen the postures also. Now find it. See, it's here. Here. You can see the cursor. This is the small tail. Small tail. How well camouflaged these are. So that's why वो हमारे साथ ये होता है when we talk कि कुछ नहीं दिखा. कुछ नहीं दिखा में बर्ड्स की गलती नहीं है, टाइगर की गलती नहीं है, एलिफेंट की गलती नहीं है, स्पॉटेड डियर की गलती नहीं है. गलती हमारी है क्योंकि हम देखना नहीं चाहते, ना देखना आता भी. So please, this is my request. Whenever you go to any place in future, whether it is a national park or sanctuary, or even your local parks or a riverfront side or wetland, please try to open your ears and eyes. And I'm sure you are all good, but be better, okay? And then you will see the amazing flora and fauna of India. We have thousands of birds, literally, and so many mammals, butterflies, insects. If we don't enjoy them, the recreation, just like sir was saying, the recreation doesn't mean New Year celebrate कर रहे हो, वो नहीं है. Here, this is a different kind of recreation also. Just enjoy, okay? So now we will move to the next section, and now you can kind of mute yourself if you want. You feel free to stop me anytime and ask anything. So the next part when you spot birds is about bird identification. So there are certain birds that will be very easy to identify. It's a green magpie. So it's bright green with bright colors, leg, beak. So it's very easy to identify. But then there are certain birds which are difficult. There are different morphs within the bird. There is male-female differentiation. Then there is immature juvenile or adult bird, or even breeding, non-breeding differences. So then slowly it becomes difficult. So we have around 1200 to 1400 birds in India, if we consider the vagrants also and passage migrants also. And then you have male, female, then juvenile. So almost around minimum 3000 birds you have to remember. It's very difficult. So start with smaller numbers, start in groups, try to identify local birds, and slowly you move on to become a better birder. Okay, just like I was saying that there are certain birds very easy to identify. This is a black winged kite. You can easily clearly see why. This is the wings clearly blackish brown and it's bright red eyes. Very easy. They have those snowy owls in America, and we have our own snowy, you can say, kite or black winged kite. Similarly, it's a duck. Again, easy to identify because the tail is a very pin needle tail, needle shape. So that's why it's called northern pin-tailed duck. So these are very easy to identify or spot even. Then there is male-female dimorphism that I was talking about. This is the Malabar trogon. You can see the male is bright orangish red, and the female is a little bit duller in color. In the sense, I'm not being male chauvinist, sorry, but it's kind of a brownish, although a beautiful mauvish blue. So there are male-female dimorphism in many of the birds, in fact in most of the birds. Similarly, here you can see there are certain male-female dimorphism. The earlier one was totally drastic. Here not so, but you can still see the difference. Here the male, this is a rufous naked hornbill. Here the male is having a rufous snake and a blackish body. Here the bluish black body, sorry, and a little bit more bluish tinge towards the head. Okay. In certain cases, the distinction is even less. Here, this is a male and female pied hornbill, almost similar looking, but you can see there is certain difference in the size. There is this tip of the casque or even the horn, it's blackish, and here the casque is not so well defined, and here it's much more prominent and broad. So in certain cases, you will find the differences are which are very broad, and in certain cases the differences are very subtle. So that's why you actually need a guidebook. Then there are different morphs. This is also a very well-known bird in India. It's called Asian paradise flycatcher, a beautiful bird. And here the right side one is a white morph, the left side one is the rufous morph. And in both cases, the female is generally rufous, but they had a smaller tail. So you can see there not only a male-female dimorphism, there are different morphs of birds as such also. Then there are instances where the birds are totally different. They're from different categories, but you will find from a distance you will find a similar kind of appearance, and you will probably overlook them. Like a common example is Indian robin. It's a very very well distributed bird of India, and this is a relatively rare bird. It's called black-throated thrush. But most of the time you'll probably overlook it from a distance, saying that, okay, it's a robin and short those. So similarly, whenever you see a bird, that's why your binocular is important, and you have to look closely. Okay, it may seem very similar or a bird you've seen 1,000 times, but probably it's better to give a better look. In certain cases, although they are similar kind of appearance, similar category, but then still you will be able to distinguish themselves. Here you can see the left one is a spotted owlet, it's very common, and the right one is a jungle owlet. What are the difference? If you see the head, you can see spots, okay, and this also, the chest and the breast portion is also different, and moreover in the wing side, this jungle owlet has a rufous tinge and much more budding. So these are certain birds where they are similar category, but they're easy to differentiate. Another example is slaty back forktail and spotted forktail. Forktails are birds which you can see in river streams, in mountain streams, you can see forktails. Here it's very clear. Spotted forktail, as the name suggests, has spots. Slaty back, so the black is slaty color. and forktails because the tail is bifurcated. Okay, there are two different feather lines that is going in this forktail. So certain birds are in the similar category and easy to differentiate. Certain birds will have a totally different distribution. So if you see a jungle fowl in the north, you can see this jungle fowl you can see in Corbett, Dudhwa, this side. But this grey jungle fowl in the right side, you will only see in the southern part of India. So certain birds have a totally different distribution. There is no overlapping, and you can easily identify them through this also. Then comes a little bit difficult category where the distribution may be different, but there could be certain differences, and the birds will look almost similar. So this is the Himalayan black-lobe-teed, and the right side is the Indian black-lobe-teed. You will see here, you can see this is the Himalayan one, is a little bit more bright color, and this above part we call it supercilium. This is the just above the eye. You can see the yellow is longer and brighter, where this is much more whitish and not that much longer, and the spots are also less compared to this Himalayan black-lobe. So for this kind of situation, you have to look a little bit more closely, and that's why identification is important. Otherwise, first you will have learned to spot the bird, that's fine. Then if you don't identify, you will probably see 2-3 different birds, but you will kind of assume that okay, they are all the same birds. Okay. Another example, the distribution is similar here, but very subtle difference. This is a white-tailed stonechat. As the name suggests, you can see there are traces of white in the sides of the tail as well as in the middle of the tail, where in the common stonechat, this white tail sides or tail feathers are missing. So distribution similar here, but subtle differences. And for this reason, now when you reach this kind of stage where now we are able to spot birds, you need to know about different parts of the birds. That's why we try to make guidebooks so that we can tell, okay, this particular bird has a different kind of structure in this. So there are different words that are used like nape or back, wing coverts, primary, secondary, tertials, ram, thigh, side, belly. Even in the head part also, whiskered or non-whiskered, eye ring, or even load. This region is also load. So I'm not just scaring you here, but slowly it's better that if you learn different parts of the bird, it will be easier for you to identify this bird. Then just like we are talking about different moths, there could be different varieties also, and some of them will have different kind of distribution. Just like this is the orange-headed thrush, where in the southern side we find, and in the western side also we find the thrush where there is a distinct bearing, black and white kind of a combination in the head. While those birds we find in the eastern side, northern side, or northeastern side, it's totally orangish. There is no white and black barring. So this is different kind of variety. And then there are difference between juvenile and adult also. The left side one is a juvenile, and here you can see the juvenile bird, it's much more whitish feather is there, and a little bit rufous in color, less darker. Right? The adult, this is the crested serpent eagle. The adult bird is much more darker in color. So there are difference between juveniles and adults, and at times juveniles are very difficult, to identify or even recognize. Similar, another example for two similar category juvenile birds. These are harriers, again a kind of a raptor. So harriers here, you can see the Montagu's harrier on the left and pallid harrier on the right, and both of them are juvenile birds. How do you differentiate? You can see in the pallid harrier there is this kind of a whitish ring neck, okay, and which is absent in the Montagu's harrier. And here the Montagu's harrier have a little bit darker plumage, and there are subtle other differences also. But when you see a bird, also try to remember the point here I am making is that what is the character, what is the habitat, how it's moving, and what it's eating, and slowly you will be able to identify more and more birds. Okay. Then there are certain categories of birds which are even difficult for the expert birders also, and or ornithologists for that matter. It's very difficult for them. Like certain birds are called warblers. These are small insect-eating birds often found in bushes or reeds or shrubs, and very difficult to identify. Almost all of them look very similar. It's a kind of dusky, dully, brownish, grayish colors birds. And this is a common chiffchaff, and this is a hume leaf warbler. You see, both of them will look very similar and kind of similar habitat. But there are certain wing pattern difference, the supercilium color difference, the head color difference, so like this, and also the call like this we will try to identify. So this 2-3 categories which I'll just talk are really difficult. So slowly you can take those birds. So when you are becoming a birder or a bird watcher, it's probably there are stages. So probably initially you will try to identify the big birds, and slowly you will go for the smaller birds. Another that category, although these are bigger birds, is gulls, and these are also very difficult to identify. Almost all of them look similar, and the juvenile and other varieties. You can see this Pallas's gull. There's this blackish head and this orangish and more darker bill side. Where in the Caspian gull, one of the characteristics is the tapering of it. So you can see the straight line kind of thing, and then it's tapering down. So there are different kind of identifiers. Another traded, you can say, all the beautiful birds, but tough to identify is the pipits. So some of the categories of birds are really difficult to identify. These are also similar kind of birds, similar looking, very slim and with pointed bill and a kind of medium to longer tails, and similar kind of habitat seen near water, wetlands, even dry scrublands also sometimes, but difficult to identify. This is much more of a little bit contrasting color. This is again a little bit duller. The supercilium, as I was saying, the area above the eye is more broader and longer than this, and also certain other, the bill is much more darker and lighted here. So there are certain points, and there are almost different 10-15 types of pipits which are almost similar. It's very difficult, and warblers are more in number. At least 25-30 warblers are very common in India, and those two are really tough. But slowly you will get into this. There is no point or no hurry to identify all the warblers and pipit. Try to see birds, and slowly you will get into that expert level. And it's not only about viewing. You should watch bird behavior. Here these two pied hornbills, they are sand bathing, and because in forest canopy the feathers become very greasy, and to ward them off they do this sand bathing. So join birding groups, as I was saying, read about birds, and also usually here the bird calls are totally different. This is again the one is the female Malabar trogon that I have shown you, and the right side one is the red-headed trogon. The distribution is different, of course. Red-headed trogon you will see in the northeast region, and Malabar trogon in the Kerala and southern western third side. But they have a different kind of vocal, although similar, but there is, you can distinguish. If I just try to imitate that call, the Malabar trogon will be slower, like this, while the red-headed trogon will be much more faster, okay, and a little bit shriller. So like this. So if you remember different bird calls, it will be easier for you to identify birds. Similarly, you can track their food pattern. In Rajasthan side, there is this small lizard, as you can see, the name suggests a spiny-tailed lizard. You can see the spine in the tail. And there are many falcons which come in the month of September, October to, feed on these lizards. So many people go during those particular months to places like Tal Chhapar Sanctuary just to see these birds. So if you know where is the habitat or what kind of food they are eating, just like nowadays in Delhi, you can see mulberry or shahtoot, जिसको आप लोग बोलते हो. So mulberry trees are kind of fruiting this time, and you will see so many different kind of birds in the same tree. Where you will find here I've given two examples: yellow-footed green pigeon or harial, and a common rosefinch. This is taken from Mokla Bird Sanctuary. So try to identify those birds with proper flower or even fruits, or even which are giving shelter to certain birds, and you will be able to find more and more birds. So now we are talking about how to identify birds or how to spot more and more birds. And you also have to remember whether certain birds are in flocks, and certain birds just go single. They prefer solitary time. Like, black bulbul will be, it's a kind of a bird with, flock. You will always see 10, 15 black bulbuls together at minimum number. But the opposite case, the black crested bulbul, it is generally, although in group, but slower, less in number, and prefer solitary movement. So you have to also look for this. You also have to look for which canopy level the birds are, staying. Like I show you in the camouflage slide, the thrush, which was in the ground level. The exact opposite is this one. This is a very cute bird and one of the smallest raptors around. It's called falconet. This is the collared falconet, because you can see in the collar is also white, and this is this total white helmet kind of thing in the head. It's a very cute bird, but always it will be in the uppermost branches of a tree. So whenever you want to see a collared falconet, mainly in the Tarai region, you should look always high up. Never look down, because that it is not going to sit on the ground or in the lower branches ever. Always on the upper higher branches, maybe in the dried branches or maybe in the green branches, but always on the top. So you have to know what kind of canopy a bird chooses for its perching also, or sitting also, or even nesting also. And some of the birds will be shy, and some of them will be very casual. So they are not bothered. Like one of the examples is purple heron. It is not bothered. The lesser adjutant stork, this is also big bird. Many of the big birds are not that much shy, so you can observe them quite easily. But then certain birds are very shy. So if you just do any wrong movement or wear very bright colors thing, so they will spot. Before you spot them, they will just fly away. Okay, or go in the jungle. Similarly, not all birds will be kind of perching or moving in the ground. They will be flying. So you need to identify birds in flight. So there are different, if you use the guidebooks, there are different, pointers where you can see how you can identify a bird which is flying or in the flight. So try to remember these points. Because this is a practical session, I'm trying to give you points, different kind of points. This is not exactly about birds of India, but you can always see presenting different kind of birds. This is a white-tailed eagle, again an immature bird, and not so rare, but it's difficult to see. Next, the last part of my talk, I'll not take much time, but this is about distribution. So now we are trying to see birds, to spot them, to unearth the camouflage. Then the next part was identifying this bird. हमने बर्ड तो देख लिया, कौन सा बर्ड है वो. देन वेयर कहाँ हम जा सकते हैं कुछ स्पेसिफिक बर्ड्स को देखने के लिए, किस किस एरिया में बर्ड्स दिखेंगे. देखो, ऑल ओवर इंडिया बर्ड्स आर देयर. यू नेम एनी स्टेट, देयर आर बर्ड्स. बट ऑफ कोर्स देयर आर सर्टेन एरियाज वेयर द नंबर और फ्रीक्वेंसी और kind of a distribution is also better, where the chances of you spotting the bird is higher. So कहाँ दिखता है बर्ड? सबसे पहले जैसे हमने बताया कि कोई भी just start in a nearby tree, and maybe a flowering tree or fruiting tree. Nowadays you will have this shahatut fruits, जो mulberry है वो हो रहा है. You will have acacia और chamrod fruits after some time. You already had simul जो हर जगह flowering हो रहा है. इन पेड़ों में देखो तुम्हें बहुत सारे birds दिखेंगे. Okay, this is an Indian white-eye. And then you can also go to the nearby wetlands. We also have many wetlands, whether bigger wetlands, Ramsar sites, and smaller wetlands. Unfortunately, wetlands, where dumping garbages and then slowly making them land for commercial or other purposes. But whatever wetland we still have, there are birds, especially migratory birds. So go to wetlands, you will see a lot of birds. Also, birds are there in the semi-arid deserts. Rajasthan has a very high, density of birds, but different kind of birds. Here you will not find, Himalayan blue-tail or pied falconer. Here you will find good sand growlers or even partridges. So you have to look for areas, and you have to identify किस area में किस type के birds दिख सकता है, habitat क्या है. So that is also important. So initial bird watching, you don't need to learn much, but when you are after you have seen, let's say 50-100 birds, now when you want to go to that 500 level or even 1000 level, slowly have to broaden your knowledge about birds also, their habitat, their behavior, so that you can identify and spot the birds. Similarly, the river banks also, as was suggested by Mr. Mehra also, that there are so many birds, so many rivers in India. All through the rivers there are birds, because there is water, there are fish, there are small insects, so birds will be there. So try to go to the river banks also whenever possible, and it's a good time is generally in the early morning or in the afternoon. Those are the times where bird activity is highest. You can see birds at noon also. And then from rivers you can go to Himalaya, mountains, everywhere birds are there. Even in the monuments also. This is the Indian vulture in Orcha in Madhya Pradesh. Vultures are, most of them are kind of endangered, but there is a good population of this Indian vultures which is staying and kind of nesting in this cenotaphs in Orcha. Similarly, certain birds will be difficult to find because they are so well hidden in the marshes or in the bushes. You have to wait like patiently for hours to see a glimpse of that bird. See rails and bush quails are this kind of birds. It's very difficult to spot them for the photography. Okay, and of course, if we were talking about desert, you can see birds in high altitude also in snow, like this hill patches. You will find them even the normal urban landscape. We have these pylons here, and the chances of spotting a falcon is very high. Now, there are too many pigeon population in most of the urban cities in India, and that's why the falcon population has also increased. And earlier, people used to go to far off places to see peregrine falcon, and now within a span of few kilometers in Delhi NCR, there are probably at least 10-15 different areas where you can see peregrine falcons regularly. So certain kind of behavior also change, and with the climate change and other things, the bird movement is also changing. Their migration pattern is also changing. So the more you learn about them, the easier it is to see and spot and identify birds. So just for the last part of our this talk, so birds are everywhere. We have different kind of habitat from Himalayan to Western Ghats to Gangetic Plains, semi-arids, coastal regions, islands, trans-Himalayan regions. So everywhere you can see birds. Wherever you stay, wherever your home city or town or village is, you will see birds there. Just look around. I'll end the session with few more slides from two of the most biodiversity hotspot areas. We have 4 biodiversity hotspot areas in India. One is of course the Himalayas, and then the second is northeast part. The upper part is also continuation with the Himalayas. This photograph is not proper. So Himalayas in the northeast India, then the Western Ghats from Maharashtra to Kerala, and then of course the Andaman and Nicobar Island. So just to give you some, to enthuse you into birding, I'll end with few slides and few birds from these different hotspot areas. See, this is a bird from Ladakh. You can see the background, Himalayan background, and the monastery. It's enjoying a bright sun. This is the Eurasian black-billed magpie. You can see it in the Ladakh region. Another bird, beautiful bird you can see in the northern Himalayan region is the European goldfinch. Beautiful bird. Coming to water, here you can see it's a migratory bird. It's called Guzandar or common merganser. Again, you can see in the Himalayan region and also in the northeast region from both areas. This is also a migratory bird. It's called northern lapwing. This is again you can see in the northern part and in the northeast region. It's a different kind of woodpecker. Normally you see the golden backs here in Delhi, but this is a woodpecker common in the northeast area. It's called greater yellowneck. You can see the bright orange yellowish neck of the bird, and see it's again easy identifier, yellowneck, and a little bit rufous and a creamy throat and a greenish body. This is mainly found in the northeast side. Another bird, this is a laughing thrush, which is again found in the northeast area. This is called black thrush, laughing thrush. You can see it's again easy identifier. Although the feathers are vibrantly colored, the face is kind of white-black combination. another very interesting bird. And remember, migration, we often talk about migratory birds and we think of doves. So not all migratory birds are doves. There are many other migratory birds, just like cuckoos. And there are different kind of migration. Summer migration, the cuckoos mostly come in summer in India. Similarly, this is a bird, beautiful bird, silver-breasted broadbill. There are two broadbills in India, silver-breasted and green-tailed broadbill. Some of these birds come from other parts of, let's say, Mongolia and China. So we go to, in this March-April time, we go to different areas of India, in the northeast and the northern part also, to see those broadbills. A beautiful bird. This is again also mainly found in the northeast of India. Next, certain birds which are common in the northeast region as well as in the western Ghats. Just give 2-3 examples. One is this mountain imperial pigeon. It just looked like a common dove, but if you see closely, there is a difference in the body shape and color. It's an imperial pigeon. Similarly, there is another imperial pigeon. It's called the green imperial pigeon. Now you can see the difference. In the mountain imperial pigeon, it's a kind of brownish, glossy brownish color, and here is the glossy greenish color in the green imperial pigeon. Again, a similar kind of bird if you see with the green imperial pigeon, but this is emerald dove, where the wing it's not clearly visible yet. Again, similar kind of emerald green, just like this, but it has a different pinkish, beautiful chest and a belly part, and the head is white. Another beautiful bird, it is seen in many parts of India. It's called emerald dove. So you just see we don't have those, dull colored birds. We have different kind of birds, and even if they're dull colored, some of the birds are very brightly colored, just like this Malabar grey hornbill. So now we are in the western Ghats where you can see this grey hornbill. You can see Indian grey hornbill in northern part, many of them are there in Delhi, but here in the Malabar grey hornbill, mainly in the male birds, the beak is orangish red. Another misconception, we always say that parrots, but we generally do not have parrots in India. We mostly have parakeets. The difference between parrots and parakeets are kind of overlap. Parrots are really bigger birds, which you see in the Southeast Asia, Australia, even in South America also. We mostly have parakeets. But only one parrot is there in India, and incidentally, this is the smaller one, and a very cute little one. This is called vernal hanging parrot. Beautiful bird, and always searching for certain flowers or seeds, and this is again you will find in the western Ghats. So last one is another beautiful bird. It's called flame-throated bulbul, again found in the western Ghats. As you can see, the name suggests the throat is kind of flame colored, and this bright yellow, bright black, and this bright orange. A beautiful bird. So you can see there are certain hotspots like western Ghats, or northeast India, or even in Himalayas and in Andaman Nicobar Islands also. But birds are everywhere. I mean, you don't have to go to only in these regions. You can go to Rajasthan or even Gujarat, or you can go to Bihar, you can go to Orissa, you can go to Telangana. Everywhere you will see birds. So wherever you go, just 3 things: open your eyes, open your ear, and learn a little bit more about birds. I think I have not taken too much time. Thank you. Happy birding.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwini. If anybody wants to ask any question, they can go ahead and unmute themselves. Yeah, Palak, go ahead. Mansi, I think you can unmute yourself, so you can just do it one by one.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So, what were the challenges that you have faced when you started researching and starting boarding?
Yeah, so first challenge for me was, there was no straightforward someone who could guide me about birds. I was just searching about birds, and that time certain good guidebooks were coming. I'm kind of birding relatively seriously around 2012 when I first went into Ladakh and saw a beautiful Tibetan peacock. And then one of the challenges that I faced was, of course, identification, support of a good group, knowing about the areas. It takes a lot of time, and also it's sometimes it's also a bit costly hobby. If you want to see different birds in different parts of India, you have to go there, staying, whether it's a safari or whether it's by trek. It's both time and money consuming, so that is also another issue that you have to face. But thankfully nowadays there are so many different birding groups in almost every state, and different I can say different forest departments, they are also organizing bird festivals. To try to go there and join those groups, and it will be much easier for you.
Thank you so much, sir.
सर बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक, थैंक यू। और मेरे को आपसे ये पूछना था कि आपने एक स्लाइड में लिखा था जिसमें आप बता रहे थे कि बर्ड्स के अलग अलग फॉर्म्स होते हैं, मेल फीमेल प्लमेज अलग हो सकता है, उसमें आपने एक चीज लिखी थी फर्स्ट विंटर, वो क्या होता है सर?
See, in certain cases, certain migratory birds, they have this, in the winter, they have a first time they have a certain kind of color, and by the time the second winters come, because this is a kind of a Western term, they target those birds as the immature first year, second year, third year. So that's why it's kind of the first winter bird. So the plumage is different, the feathers are different. So there are certain birds where there are terminologies like first winter, second winter, third winter, and then the adult. So it's just a terminology where it's an immature or juvenile bird in the first year of its life, and it has a certain plumage which is different from the adult bird. And these are mainly because of certain birds where it's very difficult to identify, just like the gulls. So in certain birds we use this kind of terms.
अच्छा, तो इसमें ऐसा भी होता है कि उनका सीजन के हिसाब से चेंज हो जाता है?
थोड़ा सा, हाँ, इनिशियली कुछ ईयर्स में, उसके बाद when they reach adult, then there is mostly two stages. One is the normal non-breeding adult, and in certain cases there is breeding adult. When they are breeding, they have more bright colors, and even calls are also very important.
Okay, thank you. अच्छा सर, क्या आप इंस्टाग्राम पे पोस्ट करते हैं?
Yes. No, I was in Google Plus long back, but आजकल मेरा सोशल नेटवर्किंग बहुत कम हो गया, टाइम नहीं मिलता है. I'm still there in Twitter as Halfmat Nomad, H Nomad. You can find me.
Okay. ठीक है, thank you sir.
Hello sir. So first I would like to say the photographs were really stunning. I was totally amazed by your photos. And my question is, what type of camera or lens would I need for bird photography? Because there is a issue of range. Like you cannot use a simple camera or a camera with a less range to photograph a bird. Even if you get the pictures, you will have to crop the picture, and that will decrease the resolution of the picture. So what is the minimum focal length of the lens would you suggest? And please give some advice on bird photography compositions. Like what can I include in my pictures that would make sense, or what that will increase the importance of this bird in that area, things like that. Yes sir.
Yes, both are very important questions. See, for photography, I use a very simple camera. I till date I don't have a good DSLR or lens. I don't have that much of money. But let me tell you two things. One is any camera is good once you know where to go and how to wait. And bird photography, first rule of bird photography is having patience. So once you have patience, the birds will also not be alerted by you, and then you will get good photographs. Obviously, it is better to have a longer zoom lenses, and many people use those 200, 500 lenses, or the prime lenses for 500, 800 prime lenses, but these are very exorbitantly costly. It's just no point in using prime lenses where you have to spend around 6-8 lakhs for that matter. But there are breeze cameras also. Just like I personally use P900, it's a simple breeze camera, comes around 30,000 rupees. It has a very good zoom range, over 1200 mm. So it's up to you and your budget and your interest. If you want to be a photographer, then probably you need a good DSLR or that kind of zoom lenses. And nowadays the mirror lens cameras, mirrorless cameras are also coming. Although they don't have that much good lens zoom range, but hopefully in a few years, in 3-4 years, they will also have good range of zoom. So you can switch off to mirrorless cameras also. They are less bulky and they are much more. The autofocus is much better. Regarding your composition, it's very important because I personally give very importance to composition of any photograph. The first point is what you want to show, and I have a simple rule. If I like something, maybe a bird or habitat or something, what I like in that photo or in that scenery or in that position, I just try to share the same thing with my viewer. So whatever you like, show that thing to the viewer so that they will share the same liking. If you remember this rule, you will be better position to go for composition.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to add one thing that as Dr. Ashwini just mentioned, so he regularly writes his poems on wildlife, and his famous quote since his PhD days was that I'm a directionless traveler and I'm a SLR photographer. So whenever we used to ask him about suggestions, he used to say that I just travel without knowing where my destination is, and that's what I enjoy the most. So I'll just like to share this anecdote. Yes, the next participant can ask their question.
हेलो सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर द एनलाइटनिंग सेशन. सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो बर्डिंग होती है वो जो नेचर लवर्स होते हैं वही करते हैं या फिर इसके और भी पर्पज होते हैं. एंड सर सेकंड क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि सर आई एम फ्रॉम राजस्थान, तो सर यहाँ पे वेटलैंड्स एंड ग्रीनरी वगैरह बहुत कम होती. सो सर बर्डिंग के लिए सर कौन से अप्रोप्रिएट प्लेसेस हो सकते हैं आपको जो लगता है कि वो यहाँ पे मिल जाए? सो सर दीज टू प्लेसेस.
मैं सेकंड क्वेश्चन का पहले जवाब देता हूँ. राजस्थान, मैंने जैसे बीच में ही बताया कि राजस्थान में बर्ड डाइवर्सिटी बहुत ज्यादा है, बट उसमें वेटलैंड भी है राजस्थान में, ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं है, बट कम है. बट देयर आर सर्टेन प्लेसेस. यू हैव डेजर्ट नेशनल पार्क, you have Tal Chhappar sanctuaries, you have northern Rajasthan, southern Rajasthan, even in जयपुर के पास भी जो झालाना रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट है, जहाँ पे तुम्हारा संबर सॉल्ट लेक है, बहुत सारे एरियाज है राजस्थान में. थोड़ा सा तुम राजस्थान की जो वाइल्ड लाइफ है, सबसे ज्यादा इंडिया के लोग तो टाइगर देखने राजस्थान में ही आते. रणथंभौर में भी बहुत अच्छा बर्ड पॉपुलेशन है. इनफैक्ट आजकल जो झालाना में लोग लेपर्ड सफारी के लिए जाते हैं, झालाना में भी बहुत अच्छे बर्ड्स दिखते हैं. एंड इनफैक्ट one of the best bird in India, if you can say one of the best birds, is Great Indian Bustard, which is the state bird of Rajasthan, गोदावन जिसको बोलते हैं राजस्थानी में, आई थिंक. तो गोदावन या गोदावनी का नंबर अब बहुत कम हो गया. तो तुम्हारा फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन है कि सिर्फ नेचर लवर भी नहीं, अगर तुम कुछ करना चाहते हो, जैसे ऑलमोस्ट 50 से 200 शायद ग्रेट इंडियन बस्टर्ड या गोदावनी जो है रह गया पूरे वर्ल्ड में, और उसके सबसे ज्यादा नंबर राजस्थान में ही है. इट्स अ स्टेट बर्ड ऑफ राजस्थान. सो यू कैन वर्क ऑन इट, यू कैन प्रोमोट अवेयरनेस कि कैसे इस बर्ड को सेव किया जाए. हो सकता है अनफॉर्चुनेटली अगर हम कुछ ना करें, प्रॉपर ब्रीडिंग इनका ना किया जाए, तो अगले 2-3 साल में ये बर्ड एक्सटिंक्ट हो जाएगा, एंड हमारे सामने ही एक्सटिंक्ट हो जाएगा, क्योंकि सिर्फ 50 से 200 बर्ड्स पूरे वर्ल्ड में है और मैक्सिमम नंबर राजस्थान में ही है. थोड़ा बहुत मध्य प्रदेश, गुजरात और कर्नाटक में कभी कभी रिपोर्ट होता है. सो यू कैन ऑल्सो do this kind of thing. And to kind of answer one of the questions that you asked in the last session, it doesn't hamper if you are from a maths or science background. You know, आजकल बहुत सारा काम हो रहा है वाइल्ड लाइफ में जहाँ पे जीपीएस और रिमोट सेंसिंग का काम है. तो अगर तुम मैथ्स बैकग्राउंड से हो और तुमने एल्गोरिथम सीख लिया और तुमने जीपीएस और रिमोट सेंसिंग पे तुम काम कर सकते हो, तो तुम्हारा वाइल्ड लाइफ में उसमें भी तुम बहुत कुछ कर सकते हो. सो जस्ट ओपन अप, एंड देयर आर सो मेनी अपॉर्चुनिटीज even if you are from a different background. And it's not like that कि सब लोग सिर्फ नेचर लवर ही होते हैं. You can support tourism, you can support conservation, you can become a naturalist, you can take photograph, you can write about them. There are so many things to do. You can, Ranthambore is also, उसके आसपास एरिया में पोचिंग भी एक टाइम बहुत ज्यादा होता था, तो उस पर भी तुम काम कर सकते हो कि कैसे पोचिंग के अगेंस्ट थोड़ा सा लोगों को जागरूकता बनाया जाए. तो there are many things to do.
यस सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. समझ गया सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
It was an amazing session. I just wanted to know, sir, when did you develop your interest in boarding?
See, my parents, from my very childhood, they were showing me birds, and I'm doing the same thing with my 1-year-old daughter. But as I said that around 2012-13, I was kind of really interested into birds, or kind of came back to birds again. And for the past 8 years, I'm continuing traveling in different parts of India just for searching birds. And at times it's beautiful memories that you develop with birds. Sometimes it's happened that it's only you and the bird, and you are watching it, and after some time it is habituated with you. It doesn't feel threatened with you. Remember, I showed my male with female dimorphism of Rufous naked hornbill. It is found in certain parts of northeast India. And when I first saw the birds, I was so overwhelmed. Initially, I didn't take photographs for 4 or 5 minutes, but slowly I was also accustomed. It was also there, and the male was picking up figs, and it was just like touching one fig after another and seeing which is ripened, and it was an amazing view. So often you come across such magic moments, as you can say, and you feel more close to nature and fall in love with birds.
Yes, sir, it's very interesting. I really enjoyed the session. It was very amazing. The camouflaging thing was indeed new for me. If anyone has any other question, they can ask directly or raise their hand so that we can unmute them.
Okay, I have a question. I'm Dr. Rajan from Department of Zoology. You hang out a lot with other birding enthusiasts. So, my question is, one of the basic equipments for birding is your binoculars. And nowadays, if you go to these, for example, places like Decathlon, etc., there you will find these monooculars also. So it's which of these two are better in
Yes,
in your
yes. So just like I said in my one of the first slides, that if you are rich, you can buy scopes. Some of the good scopes are very costly, and one of the disadvantage of scopes is you also need a good tripod. And certain times, if the bird is staying there, like it's a big owl staying there or eagle staying there, it's very good because everyone can see. As well as with different migratory ducks, you can just put the scope with tripod and see a lot of ducks within a certain area. But when you are in a kind of a forest or in certain areas where the bird is also moving from here and there, or even in safari, probably there the binocular is better option. So I will say it like this, that if you have option to buy both, then use the monoculars for certain areas where you have time and the bird also has time. And if you're in safari, or if you're in going in certain places where you have to move, the bird is also flying here and there, that kind of smaller birds you are searching for, then binocular is better. If you're going into pelagic birding by boating, or you're searching for warblers or small forest birds, then it is better that you have a binocular. Scopes is better where you can keep it there in a particular position, and many people are actually using scope with their mobile phone nowadays and taking good photographs.
Okay.
But those are better for static areas, like you have gone to a wetland and there are lots of migrated ducks. There you can put your scope and see those. Come up with a monocular where it has a small camera also, so you can see as well as you can take record shots. So technology is improving very fast.
Okay. Any other questions anyone has? Okay, then they can still ask.
I think, sir, we can move ahead because we are already running a little late, and I'm sure Dr. Ashwini would be glad to address any queries our students might have at a later point.
Okay. So, I would like to thank Dr. Bhaduri for sharing his experiences, okay, that he has gathered as a birding enthusiast. enlightening the audience about the gems that they can unearth in the wild. It was a very informative interaction which kept the audience glued to the screen. The small details were so nicely highlighted by you. With the primer that you have provided, I'm very much sure that many of the audience, okay, they will take up birding as a hobby. And myself also, like I'll be like whenever I'll be in such an environment, I'll be keeping an eye for the birds. Thank you very much.
With that, I would also like to thank Dr. Ashwini for graciously accepting our invitation to judge the entries for our student wildlife photography competition, along with Dr. Rajen Fatiyal. I request Palak to please share the entries, and then I request the judges to announce the winner's name as well as their criteria of what they liked about the winning photographs and overall the entries in general.
Department of Zoology has also organized the wildlife photography competition, and here is the glimpse of the entries that we have received. This was the first entry that we received from Abhimanyu from Sri Venkateshwara College. It was a beautiful entry, and he captured this moment during his internship at Kaziranga National Park.
The last one.
The second entry was also from Abhimanyu. It's a picture of a young male elephant having a bit of fun in the flooded ranges of Kaziranga National Park. It was also captured during his internship. The third entry we have received from Fayaz Ahmed. It's from Hindu College. He captured a beautiful creature yak, come in all sizes and shapes, and most have horns, some don't, and in different shades. The next entry that is from Midnak. She's from Sri Venkateshwara College, and the caption of this picture is Predator and the Prey. It's a picture of a male shikra feasting on a garden lizard. The next entry is also from Midnak. It was a hoe cuckoo sitting against a wheat field. The sixth entry we have received from Piyush Kumar Arun. The story behind this picture is it was the time of just after his exams. The next entry was also from Piyush Kumar Arun. It is a beautiful picture. The eighth entry that we have received from Harshit from Government College Daman. The caption that he has given to this picture is juvenile painted stock bird, modeling time. The ninth entry that we have received, it is also from Harshit. This entry is from Nirmeg Basu from Sri Venkateshwara College. A chance encounter, Egyptian vulture pair. This was the story and the caption given by him. The next entry, it is also from Nirmeg Basu from Sri Venkateshwara College. It's a picture of black-winged stilt. This was the entry from Astha, University of Delhi. The next entry was also from Astha, University of Delhi. This entry was also from Astha. This is a picture of a beautiful parakeet. She gave the caption College G for Genius. Entry number 15, this is also from Astha. The caption given to this picture by her is Birth, a mother's greatest gift to herself. The entry number 16, we have received this entry from Mansi Dhingra from Shri Venkateshwara College, and the caption given to this picture is "See girls in a game of fetch." This was the continuation of the previous picture. Entry number 17, we have also received this entry from Mansi from Shri Venkateshwara College, and the caption given to this picture by her is "Winters bring colors with wings." Now the winner entries. I would like to invite our judges to announce the name of the winners.
Rajendra sir is there. Because I'm already looking like a villain, and if I announce the name, I'll be also perceived as a villain. It's a very difficult thing to judge because all the photographs were good and they are of a similar kind of status level, and we had scores like 92 something for the top one, and the last one was around 84, 86. So it's very close contest, but unfortunately we have to give some names, and let me be that villain for this. So as a second runner-up, we have Nirmig for that entry 10 with the Egyptian vultures. Although I can say that this Egyptian vulture is not that much endangered. This is kind of relatively well stable population. This is really good that you spotted it and kind of got a good picture of that. The first runner-up is a tie between Astha Saini and T15 with the birth of that goat. Although again, it's not a very totally wildlife kind of setting, but it's a beautiful moment captured. And the other entry is by Fayaz Ahmed with the yak. That is the first runner-up, and it's a lovely competition. Yeah, if you can change the slide, yes, these two. And in the right side, it's a perfect natural moment, and in the left side by Fayaz, somebody was asking about composition. This is the most well composed photograph in this entry. Beautiful. Congratulations both Fayaz and Astha. And the winner, of course, is the elephant, the young elephant, Abhimanyu. It is a wonderful photograph of that young male enjoying itself in this pondy wetland with water. Thank you. All of you have done good in photography, but do more, be better, work up with your compositions, work with your lighting, colors. See, most of the photographs, my 1-year-old daughter is kind of asking for me. So before I go, one thing I'll just suggest that most of these photographs were a little bit, on a brighter side. So also, if you're using an SLR, you have to be careful about your metering and what kind of white light and how exposure you are using exposures. But at this stage, these are very good photographs. Please carry on, and I thank all of you, especially the organizer.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I extend a hearty vote of thanks to both of our speakers. And congratulations to the winners and everyone present.